Our second speaker is Tatiana Eisner. On the eve of a Valentine Day, this is a solemn contemplation of gender roles in a modern world. Please help me welcome Tatiana to the lectern.
I would like to make a disclosure. The sentiment expressed in this soliloquy represents just my own personal opinion and not position of Toastmasters International. And second, Starbuck figure I refer to whom in this speech, it's a noble and brave character from the famous novel Moby Dick, after whom the coffee shop was called. Searching for Starbuck, I will always remember their faces. They were sunburned and wrinkled and full of quiet determination. They were broad-shouldered, with eyes of steel, mounted on beautiful horses, and were riding towards the beautiful sunset, towards some rigid mountains, and just stopped for a moment to give me a glance. They were, of course, the famous guys from Marlboro ad, which already was prohibited in the United States, but was widely popular in Russia in early 90s. I was standing in subway looking this ad, which represented for me an epitome of manhood, some wonderful land which should collide with mine pretty much soon. Of course, they were not the only ones. These images were coming to me from the pages of Jack London and Sir Walter Scott and Ernest Hemingway, and from the movies about revolutions and World War II and American West. And most important, I had such guy in my life. It was my father. My father could make anything. He could build a house, a canoe, a farm. He hunted a fox, he killed the fox, he skinned the fox, and with his own hands, he made 2 fur hats, one for my mother and one for me. We didn't have toys enough, so during just one summer week, when I was 7, he made for me a wooden toy ship, a theater stage where I could play with my puppets, and a huge swing set where all local children were invited. Once, my father saved lives of people on a sinking boat by diving under. And my mother told me a story once when they walked in the city and drunken passerby insulted my mother. In a matter of seconds, this fellow found himself flying in the air and then landing somewhere on a sidewalk. I didn't need to be told to honor my father. It came naturally. He had transgressions, but the lack of masculinity wasn't one of them. Fast forward to modern times. During the last 2 years, it was suggested to me on 2 occasions, by 2 different men, during casual conversation, that I perhaps should consider joining a war. One of them suggesting that I should go to Ukraine, and another to Middle East. Considering that I have Russians, Jews, and Ukrainians in my family, and being an American citizen on top of that, I would have really hard time to figure out where to go and with whom to fight. But that's not the point. The point that in year 2023 AD, these men considered comfortable offering a woman to go to war while they would stay behind and applaud from their couches. But why am I surprised? During the beginning of pandemic, we didn't know much about a new virus. There were rumors that among medical professionals who caught it, mortality amounted to 25%, and we didn't have much of protective equipment. I would never forget how in an emergency room, while we were waiting for a patient with COVID, a male physician ran to me, grabbed the last I-95 mask from my hands, and put it on himself. And I know it's a very bad taste to share your dating experience, but this case I just can't resist. I was sitting across the table from this man, the fellow widower in his 60s. He just disclosed that his wife passed away 2 years prior from an early Alzheimer. But, he added, when I met her, she was a divorced woman with 4 children. 4 children, I gasped. My heart immediately went to this man. How much he probably loved that woman. "You are a real American hero," I said. He solemnly nodded. When I came home, I was so excited, I decided to splurge on a background check. And here it was, his wedding on a county records. The groom, 32 years old. The bride, 64. He married a woman 32 years his senior. He didn't take responsibility for the family. He was a toy boy for a rich old lady for many years. And yes, she did have 4 children, but they all were older than him. But final blow came several weeks ago when I went on excursion with a group of tourists. During the break, 2 lines formed to the bathrooms as usual. Suddenly I realized there was a man in my line. No, he wasn't a transgender. He was standing there with his wife, simply because of convenience. I came to him and politely asked him to change lines. The women around us rised into his defense. "It's okay," they shouted. "In Canada, we are doing it all the time." I miss those guys from a Marlboro ad, riding to the burning sunset. The guys who were promised to me in my youth, but whom I never met. I'm mourning the loss of masculinity in a modern world. I really do. But what about Starbuck? Oh, he died at the end.